No matter how good we are, no matter how talented we are, there are certain times in life when we are going to make mistakes. We are going to mess things up in life. During such times, one of the most common things that we tend to do is hate ourselves. This self-hatred can lead to serious situations, including thoughts of suicide. Think about how many times we say, "I love you" to someone. How often do we say it? We say it quite often, right? But how often do we say, "I love myself"? I appreciate who I am. This is something that we do not do very often. In Buddhist practice, the first step of spreading love and kindness is to practice love and kindness, or to spread love and kindness to yourself. The Buddha understood that without being filled with self-love and self-kindness, one cannot be genuinely kind to someone else. That is why we must learn how to be kind to ourselves and how to love ourselves without hating who we are. So in this video, I am going to share with you a few things that we need to understand and practice in order to stop hating ourselves and to begin appreciating and loving our life. Number one, do not believe in labels. There are many labels that we have placed on ourselves. For example, your name. Your name is a label that was given to you, perhaps by your parents. Everyone began to call you by that name, and over time, it became part of your personality. It became who you believe you are. In the same way, we are often very good at labeling ourselves with our imperfections, our mistakes, or our perceived inabilities. But here is the important thing to understand. The more we label ourselves with our weaknesses, the more we start to believe those labels. For example, people say things like, "I am a person who is angry all the time," or "I am someone with a weak mindset." Others might say, "I am lazy," or "I do not have any friends. I cannot fit in with people." The more you say these things to yourself, the more they become your personality. That is why we should not believe in the labels we put on ourselves. Why is that? Because a label, a weakness, a mistake, or an incapability is simply a thought pattern. And thought patterns can always be changed. You can always improve. You can always grow. That is why we must not define ourselves by our weaknesses, mistakes, or limitations. We always have the opportunity to improve, to change, and to evolve. Number two, learn to accept mistakes. Mistakes are not signs of failure. They are signs that we are trying. They show that we are making an effort to move forward in life, to grow, and to better ourselves. Making a mistake means that you are engaged in life, that you are not simply giving up or staying still. It means you are willing to take action, to try something new, and to risk falling, because deep down, you want to rise. Every great person who has ever lived has made mistakes. Not just one or two, many. They stumbled, they failed, they were misunderstood, and sometimes even ridiculed. But what made them great was not that they were perfect, it was that they did not stop at their mistakes. They chose to learn from them, to grow stronger, and to use their experiences as stepping stones rather than burdens. That is how they evolved. That is how they achieved their greatness. You must always remember this truth. Mistakes will never define your character, unless you allow them to. A mistake is simply an event, a moment in time. It is not who you are. It is not your identity. But when you replay that mistake over and over in your mind, when you hold on to guilt and shame, you begin to merge that event with your sense of self. And in doing so, you forget that you are so much more than a single decision or even a series of them. The power lies in your hands. You have the ability to reflect, to take responsibility, and then to let go, to grow beyond your past. You have the choice to shape your own story, not based on your failures, but on how you rise after them. Every mistake is an invitation to learn something new about yourself and about life. So do not let your mistakes define your worth. Do not let them hold you back from becoming the person you are meant to be. You always have the chance to improve, to move forward, and to create a better version of yourself, day by day, step by step. Believe in that possibility. Believe in your capacity to grow. Number three, stop criticism. This is something very important that we must pay attention to when we talk about loving ourselves. We must stop criticism. Stop criticizing yourself and stop criticizing others. Now let me be clear. This is not about constructive criticism, which is meant to help and support growth. What we are talking about here is negative criticism, the kind that brings others down and damages your own self-worth. Why should we avoid criticizing others? Because every time we criticize someone, especially in a negative and judgmental way, we send a message to our own mind that we are somehow better than that person. We begin to believe that we are more perfect, more capable, or more valuable than they are. Over time, this habit builds up unrealistic standards in our own minds. We set these high and often unachievable standards for ourselves, thinking we must always be perfect, always better than others. And what happens when we fail to meet those standards? We turn that same criticism inward. We begin to hate ourselves for not being good enough. Slowly, our self-worth begins to break down. This is how constant criticism, whether directed outward or inward, steals away self-love and personal value. It creates a cycle of negativity where we are either looking down on others or looking down on ourselves. Therefore, we must let go of the habit of judging and criticizing. Instead, let us replace criticism with understanding. Let us choose compassion, not only for others, but also for ourselves. Remember, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes, we all have flaws, and we all are learning and growing at our own pace. Embrace that reality and stop tearing yourself down. Begin to speak to yourself with kindness, the same way you would speak to a friend who is struggling. That is how you protect your self-love. That is how you build a healthier, kinder relationship with yourself and the people around you. Number 4, believe that imperfection is beautiful. Take a deep breath and look closely at nature. Everything around us carries one common quality: imperfection. From the tiniest plant to the tallest mountain, everything in nature is imperfect. There is no such thing as a perfectly symmetrical tree, and there is no mountain that is shaped in flawless precision. Yet they are beautiful, deeply beautiful, precisely because of their imperfection. We, as human beings, are no different. We are also imperfect, and that is completely natural. In fact, it is that imperfection which gives us the opportunity to grow, to evolve, and to become better versions of ourselves. Our flaws do not hold us back. Our resistance to those flaws does. Understand this deeply. Becoming successful and becoming happy are not final destinations. They are not about reaching some perfect state. They are ongoing journeys. We continue to improve. We continue to learn. We continue to discover ourselves more and more each day. When we accept our imperfections, we create space within ourselves for kindness and love. We stop wasting energy trying to be perfect, and instead, we start appreciating who we truly are, as we are. You can turn this into a daily practice. Each morning, as you wake up, take a quiet moment while still sitting on your bed. Say to yourself, no matter how imperfect I am, no matter what mistakes I have made, I will not give up on myself. I will continue to improve. I will keep making myself a better, kinder, and happier person. I will never abandon myself. This is not selfishness. True selfishness is when we expect perfection from ourselves, when we set unrealistic standards and punish ourselves for not meeting them. That kind of thinking only leads to frustration, guilt, and self-hatred. True self-love, on the other hand, is when we embrace our imperfections. It is when we accept who we are with honesty, compassion, and patience. And from that place of acceptance, we naturally begin to grow and improve. These are the things we must remember and practice regularly in order to build true self-love and increase our sense of self-worth. When we do, life becomes lighter, healthier, and far more joyful. So keep practicing. Be kind to yourself. Be patient, and allow yourself to be beautifully imperfect. Number 5, how to say no. If there is one simple word that many of us struggle to say, it is the word no. Just 2 letters. A short, simple word. Yet saying no can sometimes be one of the most difficult things to do in life. Why do we struggle to say no? The reason is that we have become so used to saying yes. Yes to everything, yes to everyone, yes even to things that do not truly matter. When we keep saying yes to unimportant things, what happens is that we lose the time, energy, and focus to say yes to the things that actually matter, the things that are meaningful and aligned with our purpose. This is why it is important to learn how to say no to what does not matter and say yes, consciously and with intention, to what truly does. The reason I'm sharing this message today is because a few days ago, while chanting, I came across a powerful word from the Buddhist teachings. In the Karanya Metta Sutta, the Buddha says, apakiko, which means do less. If you are walking the spiritual path, or even simply trying to live a meaningful and focused life, then you must learn to do less. Do not burden yourself with more and more. In contrast, modern society constantly teaches us the opposite. Society says, do more. The more you do, the more you will achieve. The message is, fill your schedule, stay busy, take on everything you can, then success will come. But it turns out that doing more does not always lead to being more productive. True productivity, and more importantly, meaningful living, comes from doing less, but doing it with clarity and purpose. This is why we must master the art of saying no. Only then can we protect our time, energy, and attention for what really matters in life. In this message, I want to share a few tips that can help you say no to what is unimportant and help you say yes to what genuinely serves your well-being, your growth, and your purpose. But first, why do we say yes to unimportant things? Before we can learn how to say no, we must understand why we say yes so easily, especially when deep down we know it is not what we want or need. In most cases, the answer is fear. Sometimes it is the fear of missing out. Other times, it is the fear of disappointing someone. There is the fear of being the only one who says no, and sometimes even the fear of making the wrong decision. All of these fears push us into saying yes, not just to people, but even to unhelpful habits or distractions in life. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are studying, your phone is next to you, and suddenly a notification appears. You know you need to focus. You know that this is your time to learn. Yet you pick up the phone and check the notification. You just said yes to a distraction, even though it was not necessary. Here is another example. Suppose you plan to meditate or study in the evening. Suddenly, a friend calls and invites you to go shopping, to a party, or just for a walk. Because you do not want to let that person down, or because you fear being judged for saying no, you say yes. You go with them. And in doing so, you miss the time you had set aside for something that truly mattered to you. Again and again, we say yes, not because it is what we truly want, but because we are afraid of what might happen if we say no. Over time, this habit can pull us away from our goals, our peace of mind, and even our sense of purpose. This is why it is so important to learn how to say no in a way that is respectful, clear, and empowering. Saying no does not make you a bad person. It means you are choosing to live with intention. The first step to saying no to unimportant things in life is to build a strong sense of self-awareness. You need to have a clear understanding of what truly matters to you, and you must also be honest about why you say yes to certain things and no to others. When you become more aware of your own values, priorities, and reasons, it becomes much easier to say yes to what is truly important and no to what is not. So before you say yes to anything, whether it is a task, a request, or an activity, take a moment to ask yourself why. Why am I saying yes to this? Ask yourself, am I doing this because I really want to? Is this aligned with my values and goals? Or am I saying yes out of fear, pressure, or habit? Likewise, before saying no, you also need to ask yourself, why am I saying no? Understanding the reason behind both your yes and your no brings clarity and helps you make intentional decisions. For example, let us say you are tempted to check your mobile phone while studying. Your mind suddenly tells you to take a quick look. In that moment, pause and ask yourself, why do I want to do this right now? Will it help me or distract me? Is this action supporting my goals or pulling me away from them? The Buddha taught that before doing something or before saying something, one should reflect and ask, is this helpful for me? Is this helpful for others? Is this good for me? Is this good for others? When you ask yourself these questions, you create space between impulse and action. And in that space, you find wisdom. If your answer is, yes, this is truly meaningful and beneficial, then go ahead and say yes. But if your answer is no, this is not important or helpful, then kindly but firmly choose not to do it, because it will only take away your valuable time and energy. So remember, the foundation of learning how to say no is self-awareness. The more clearly you understand your values, your priorities, and your motivations, the easier it becomes to make choices that truly serve your growth and happiness. The second step in learning to say no to unimportant things in life is to build strong self-discipline. This, without a doubt, is one of the most difficult parts of the process because it requires courage, mental strength, and consistency. Saying no is not always easy, especially when the things you need to say no to are the things that bring immediate pleasure or enjoyment. Sometimes the unimportant things in life are also the most tempting. They may seem harmless or fun in the moment, but in the long run, they can pull you away from your goals, your growth, and your deeper sense of purpose. For example, imagine you have set aside time to study or meditate. You have made a plan and you know how important it is for your future success or your spiritual development. But suddenly a friend invites you to a party. Naturally, you enjoy parties. You want to go. There is nothing wrong with having fun. We all want to enjoy life. However, there are moments when that enjoyment comes at the cost of something more meaningful. In that moment, you face a choice. Do you follow short-term pleasure, or do you remain committed to your long-term purpose? That is where self-discipline comes in. You must be able to say to yourself, this is what truly matters to me, and I choose to honor it. Yes, it may feel uncomfortable. Yes, it may be difficult. But that moment of discomfort is often the gateway to growth, clarity, and real progress. Self-discipline is not about punishing yourself. It is about protecting your time and your values. Now, when you say no to someone, you do not have to be rude. You can say it politely and respectfully. In fact, I once came across a popular quote that said, "Learn to say no without explaining yourself." But I would offer a different view. Learn to say no and take a moment to explain why. When you explain your reason with sincerity and calmness, people are more likely to understand you. They begin to respect your time, your focus, and your priorities. That is why we must learn to say no politely, mindfully, and with clarity. When your no comes from a place of discipline and inner strength, it becomes a powerful tool to protect what truly matters in your life. The third step in learning to say no to unimportant things in life is to deeply understand that your time is valuable. Time is the most precious asset we have in our lives. Unlike other resources, time is limited, and once it passes, it can never be regained. We do not have an infinite amount of time on this earth. We have a finite, unpredictable amount, and that is why we must learn to use it wisely. I would encourage you to begin viewing your time in the same way you view your money. When you receive money, you do not usually spend it carelessly or throw it away on meaningless things. You think carefully. You make decisions. You ask yourself, is this worth spending my money on? You understand that money is valuable, so you become intentional with how you use it. In the same way, train yourself to become intentional with your time. Because while money can be earned again, time cannot. You cannot rewind time. You cannot go back and relive a moment. Once it is gone forever. That is what makes it so valuable, and that is why we must not waste it. In this short and precious lifetime, your goal should be to use your time in the best possible way. Invest your time in things that truly matter. Your growth, your well-being, your relationships, your purpose. When you start to take your time seriously, something powerful happens. You begin to say no to distractions. You begin to say no to meaningless obligations. You begin to say yes only to the things that truly matter, the things that bring you fulfillment, peace, and purpose. So respect your time, protect it, use it wisely, and equally learn to respect the time of others as well. When you treat time as a sacred resource, just like money or even more, you will naturally begin to make better decisions, build better habits, and live a life that is more focused and meaningful. The fourth step is to ask yourself this magic question. Is it really, really necessary? Before you say something, before you do something, before you say yes to someone or something, pause and ask yourself, is this really necessary? Do I really have to do this? Many times we say yes to unimportant things simply because we do not stop to consider whether it is truly necessary. We get caught up in the moment or in habit, and we allow distractions to take over. For example, imagine you come home after a long, tiring day. You might say yes to scrolling through social media. You open your phone and start to scroll, and before you know it, 1 or 2 hours have passed. Valuable time lost. In that same time, you could have done something much more meaningful, such as talking with your children, spending quality time with your parents, or engaging in an activity that truly matters to you and your loved ones. These moments are precious and cannot be recovered. So before you give in to these distractions or say yes automatically, ask yourself, is it really necessary for me to do this right now? Will this bring me value or joy? When you make this a habit, you become more conscious of your choices. It helps you decide what to say yes to and what to say no to. Keep this magic question in your mind. It will guide you to protect your time and energy and focus on what truly matters. The final step is to clearly figure out what is truly important to you, what really matters in your life. Most of the time, the reason we say yes to unimportant things is that we have not yet fully discovered or understood what truly matters to us in life. Without a clear understanding of your larger purpose or what holds real value for you, it becomes easy to get distracted and say yes to things that do not serve your goals or well-being. If you have a strong understanding of your life's greater purpose, and you know what really matters to you, then you can focus your energy on those important things. You will naturally say no to other things that do not help you move toward that purpose. I suggest taking some quiet time each day to reflect and ask yourself, what really matters to me today? What is the most important thing I should do to move closer to my larger purpose? By regularly reflecting in this way, you will gain clarity on what truly matters and what does not. This will help you focus your time and effort on the things that really count and avoid getting caught up in distractions. Sometimes unimportant things can be enjoyable or tempting. It can be difficult to say no to those distractions, especially when they seem fun or easy. However, it is important to recognize that these distractions often prevent us from engaging fully with what truly matters and from achieving our larger goals. So even though it may be hard, we must learn to say no to unimportant things in order to live a more focused, meaningful, and successful life. These are the tips that you can practice to say no to unimportant things and distractions, and to say yes to what really matters in your life. Saying no can be very difficult, I understand that, but if you want to achieve a happier, calmer, and more disciplined life, learning to say no is essential. Practice these simple steps consistently, and you will find yourself living a more fulfilling and joyful life. If this message resonated with you, please like the video and share it to help others embrace the wisdom of self-focus. Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and awaken your mind with Wisdom Kingdom.